After tomorrow, you're no longer part of this family. Those were the exact words my son's fiancée whispered to me the night before their wedding. I stayed home the next day, heartbroken. But by noon, the wedding had completely fallen apart, and the reason left everyone stunned. The night before my son's wedding, I thought I was about to witness the happiest chapter of his life, and maybe the most rewarding one of mine. After all, I'd raised him alone for 27 years, making sacrifices no one else could fully understand. I'd turned down promotions, skipped vacations, and learned to stretch every dollar to its limit. Also, my boy, Daniel, would never feel the full weight of what we lost when his father walked out. To me, his wedding wasn't just about him marrying the woman he loved. It was proof that I'd done something right, that I'd raised a good man against all odds. At least, that's what I told myself. That evening, I stopped by the rehearsal dinner venue to drop off something I'd spent weeks creating, a scrapbook of Daniel's life, from his first steps to high school graduation, from scraped knees to the day he was accepted into law school. I poured my heart into it, hoping his fiancée, Jessica, would see the love and sacrifice that had shaped the man she was about to marry. Jessica met me at the door. She looked stunning, as always, perfect hair, perfect dress, perfect smile. But that night, her eyes were colder than I'd ever seen them. "Jessica," I said, holding out the scrapbook. "I made this for Daniel. I thought you two might enjoy looking through it together tonight." She didn't even glance at it. Instead, she leaned in close, her voice low so no one else could hear. "After tomorrow," she said, her lips curling into a faint smirk, "you're no longer part of this family." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I blinked, unsure I'd heard right. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," she whispered. "You've done your job. You raised Daniel. Tomorrow he becomes my husband, my family. And you? You're just extra baggage. Don't embarrass yourself by clinging on." I stood frozen, clutching the scrapbook like it was the only thing keeping me upright. My throat burned, but I couldn't speak. She tilted her head, almost amused by my silence. "Honestly, I put up with you long enough. Daniel loves you, of course, but love makes people blind. I see you for what you really are, someone who doesn't belong in our future. So do us both a favor. Don't come tomorrow. Spare us the drama." I should have said something. I should have defended myself. Instead, the weight of all those years crashed down on me, years of loneliness, double shifts, pretending I wasn't exhausted so Daniel wouldn't see how hard life was without his father. And now this woman, who claimed to love him, was telling me I was disposable. She patted my arm like I was a child. "Go home, Mrs. Miller. Sleep in. Tomorrow will be the best day of our lives, and we don't need you there to ruin it." I don't remember leaving or driving home. What I do remember is sitting on the edge of my bed that night, staring at Daniel's scrapbook. My hands shook so badly the pages almost tore. Every photo was a memory of love, sacrifice, and perseverance. Yet tomorrow I was supposed to act like none of it mattered, like I didn't matter. Tears blurred my vision, but beneath the heartbreak, something else stirred, a cold, quiet anger. I whispered into the darkness, "If I'm not part of this family after tomorrow, then I won't be there at all." And so, the next morning, I stayed home. I thought the wedding would go on without me. I thought Daniel would marry her and I'd be erased from my own son's story. But by noon that day, the whole city knew. The wedding hadn't happened, and the reason would change everything. To anyone looking in from the outside, I was probably just another overprotective mother who couldn't let go. That's the label Jessica had carefully stuck on me over the years. But the truth is, I never clung to Daniel. I held him up because no one else would. When his father walked out, he didn't just leave me, he abandoned his son. I'll never forget that night. Daniel was 7, clutching his toy dinosaur, asking, "When is Dad coming home?" I had no answer, only tears I hid behind forced smiles. From then on, it was just the two of us. I became the breadwinner, the caregiver, the cheerleader, the disciplinarian. I worked double shifts at the hospital cafeteria, coming home so tired I sometimes fell asleep in my uniform. But every gold star from school, every crooked Mother's Day card, made it worth it. Daniel grew into a kind, intelligent, ambitious man. He studied harder than anyone I knew. He wanted to become a lawyer not for the money, but because, as he told me, "Mom, I want to protect people who can't protect themselves, like you always protected me." That sentence carried me through 1,000 sleepless nights. So when he brought Jessica home 3 years ago, I genuinely wanted to like her. She was gorgeous, confident, the kind of woman who lit up every room. Daniel was smitten, and I wanted him happy. But beneath the charm, I noticed cracks. She was polite to me in front of Daniel, but the moment he left the room, her tone turned sharp and dismissive, like talking to me was a chore. She never asked about my life, my work, or Daniel's childhood. Instead, she steered every conversation back to herself, her marketing career, her glamorous friends, her future plans. I brushed it off at first. Maybe she was nervous. Maybe she just didn't know how to connect. But the cracks widened. On Daniel's last birthday, I baked his favorite chocolate fudge cake with peanut butter frosting, our tradition since he was 10. When I brought it out, Jessica smiled sweetly and said, "Oh, how quaint. But Daniel's on a new diet now. I'll make sure he doesn't touch it." She took the knife from my hand and set the cake aside, untouched. Daniel laughed it off, kissed my cheek, and said, "Thanks, Mom. You didn't have to." But I saw the guilt flicker in his eyes. He knew I'd stayed up half the night making it. Still, I swallowed my pride, because that's what mothers do. Every time Jessica dismissed or undermined me, I told myself it didn't matter. She loved Daniel. That was enough. Or so I tried to believe. The engagement should have felt like gaining a daughter. Instead, it widened the distance. Jessica took complete control of the wedding planning. I wasn't invited to a single dress fitting, cake tasting, or seating chart discussion. When I gently offered help, she gave me a tight smile and said, "Don't worry, Mrs. Miller. We've got it covered. Just show up looking nice, okay?" It stung, but I smiled and nodded, for Daniel's sake. There were warning signs I should never have ignored: how Jessica seemed more interested in Daniel's future salary than his dreams, how she rolled her eyes when he mentioned pro bono work, how she introduced him at parties as Daniel, the soon-to-be lawyer. Looking back, she didn't see my son as a man. She saw him as a trophy. And the night before the wedding, when she finally spat those venomous words in my face, every ignored warning sign clicked into place. I wasn't losing my son to love. I was losing him to ambition, greed, and someone who viewed me as a loose thread in her perfect picture. I let her, until the next morning, when fate intervened in a way none of us saw coming. The morning of the wedding, I woke before sunrise. For a moment, I moved on autopilot, boiling water for coffee, laying out the pale blue dress I'd bought months earlier, the one Daniel had said looked beautiful on me. Then Jessica's words twisted in my gut again. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the steam rising from my mug, hands trembling, not from age, but from the decision I'd already made. I wasn't going. For the first time in 27 years, I was choosing myself over Daniel. Maybe it was selfish. Maybe it was cowardly. But I couldn't sit in that church pew, smiling politely, while watching him vow his life to a woman who'd already erased me. I slid the scrapbook back into its box and hid it under my bed. He wouldn't see it today. Maybe never. As morning light filled the room, my phone buzzed, texts from relatives, friends, even Daniel. "Mom, we're heading to the venue. Can't wait to see you. Where are you? Everyone's asking. You're running late, right?" Typical. I turned the phone face down. A small voice inside whispered that I was making a mistake. But Jessica's smirk and cruel certainty drowned it out. By 9 a.m., the calls grew frantic. Daniel left a voicemail, panic in his voice. "Mom, where are you? Jessica said you weren't feeling well last night, but I know that's not true. Please call me back. I pressed the phone to my chest, every instinct screaming to rush to the church. But I couldn't. Not this time. At 10:00, my sister knocked on my door, still in her bridesmaid dress. Margaret, what on earth are you doing? Everyone's looking for you. The ceremony starts in an hour. I'm not going, I said. Her jaw dropped. Are you insane? Your only son is getting married. He's marrying someone who looked me in the eye last night and told me I'm no longer part of his family. She doesn't want me there. So why should I go? My sister's anger faded into shock. Jessica said that? I nodded. She sank into a chair. Oh my God. For a long moment, only the wall clock ticked. Finally, she whispered, but Margaret, if you don't go, people will blame you. They'll say you abandoned him on his wedding day. I gave a bitter laugh. Then let them. I've been judged my whole life. What's one more time? At 10:45, I watched neighbors head to the church in suits and gowns. My car keys stayed on the counter. When the church bells rang at 11 o'clock, I sat in silence. That should have been the end, a mother too broken and humiliated to stand by her son on his biggest day. But by noon, the first call came. My sister, voice shaking, Margaret, the wedding isn't happening. My breath caught. What do you mean? Jessica's been exposed. I gripped the phone. Exposed how? Daniel found out the truth minutes before the ceremony. My knees buckled. I sank onto the couch. Later, piecing it together from frantic calls, texts, and gossip spreading among guests, it unfolded like a soap opera. At 10:30, Daniel was pacing in a side room at the church. His best man, Mark, a childhood friend, burst in, pale and shaking, holding out his phone. Daniel, you need to see this. Photos, Jessica in the arms of another man, taken 2 weeks earlier. The man was her boss, the mentor she'd gushed about. Daniel staggered. The late nights, secretive texts, brushed off concerns. All true. But it wasn't just the affair. As guests arrived, Jessica's drunk maid of honor let slip that the family had pushed the engagement because of Daniel's upcoming lucrative career. Marriage was a transaction. The prenup wasn't to protect Daniel, it was designed to funnel his assets to them. Her father had even bragged that the marriage would solve their financial troubles. By the time Daniel stormed into the bridal suite, he was shaking with rage. Jessica, radiant in her gown, turned with a smile. Sweetheart, ready? He held up the phone. What the hell is this? Her mask slipped. It's not what it looks like. It's exactly what it looks like, he roared. 2 weeks ago, with your boss. Then he unloaded, you told my mother she wasn't part of this family. You tried to cut out the one person who's always been there for me. And all this time, you were lying. Jessica snapped, your mother? She's been poisoning you against me. She's jealous, she can't let go. But the words fell flat. Daniel realized I hadn't needed to poison anything. Jessica had done it herself. By 11:15, the church was chaos. Daniel walked down the aisle alone and announced, there will be no wedding today. Jessica has betrayed my trust. The ceremony is cancelled. Jessica's parents protested, her mother screeched about humiliation. But Daniel stood firm. By noon, guests filed out in stunned silence. Some muttered about wasted money. Others whispered sympathy for me, even though I hadn't been there. When my sister finished telling me, I sat frozen. My heart ached for Daniel's pain, but beneath it bloomed vindication. Jessica had wanted me gone. Now she was the one gone. But people like her don't go quietly. And I was about to learn how far she and her family would go to salvage what they thought was theirs. For the rest of the day, my phone never stopped. The cancelled wedding was everywhere online. One headline. Law student calls off wedding after fiancé's affair exposed. But another, venomous post, mother-in-law sabotages wedding, tears family apart. Jessica's family was already rewriting history, claiming I'd fed Daniel lies and convinced him to cancel. It was absurd, he'd seen the photos himself. But lies spread faster than truth, and they were good at performing victimhood. Jessica posted a photo in her ruined dress, mascara streaked, captioned, "Some people just can't let go. Some mothers don't know when to stop." Strangers piled on with sympathy for her, venom for me. It hurt more than I expected. After all my sacrifices, I was still the villain. Then it got worse. 2 days later, a legal letter arrived, Jessica's family threatening to sue me for defamation, emotional damages, even interference with contractual relations. I took it to my friend Linda, who works at a law office. She shook her head. "This is pure intimidation. They're trying to scare you." Interference with contractual relations is their fancy way of saying you ruined their financial plan, which isn't even valid here. Financial plan? Linda explained, Jessica's family was bankrupt. Her father had lost millions. They needed Daniel's future income. The prenup would have siphoned half his earnings to them for years. It had never been about love. It was money, control, security. By not showing up, I'd given Jessica the perfect scapegoat, the bitter, controlling mother-in-law. For the next week, anonymous messages flooded in, monster. Jealous hag. You ruined your son's life. Then Daniel showed up at my house, pale, holding his own letter. They're threatening me too, Mom. If I don't publicly clear her name, they'll drag you through court and ruin you financially. I sank into a chair. What did you tell them? I told them to go to hell. But I saw the worry in his eyes. He was just starting his career, buried in student loans. A lawsuit could crush him. Mom, I don't know how much more I can take. I took his hand. For years I'd carried him through storms. Now he was trying to shield me. But silence wouldn't end this. This was war. That night, lying awake, I remembered something Jessica once said smugly, in this world, perception is everything. People believe what they see. She was right. She'd played the beautiful, heartbroken victim perfectly. If perception was her weapon, I'd fight back with truth, publicly. And I had the ammunition. The predatory prenup, their financial records, everything. Jessica's betrayal wasn't just emotional, it bordered on fraud. 2 weeks later, her family hosted a damage-controlled dinner at a downtown hotel, inviting Daniel to talk things over. He begged me not to come. But I knew if I didn't face them, they'd never stop. So I walked in wearing the pale blue dress I'd bought for the wedding, the one I never got to wear. Jessica's parents sat at the head of the table. Jessica beside them, smile sharp. Well, her father said smoothly, look who decided to join us. We were just discussing how to resolve this misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? I said calmly. You mean the affair or the fraud? I set a thick folder on the table. Maybe you can explain these, bankruptcy filings, debts, and your prenup. Clause 14, subsection 3 to 75% of Daniel's income transferred to accounts controlled by you and Jessica in case of divorce within 5 years. Gasps rippled around the table. Even Daniel, who'd skimmed it before, went pale. You were planning to gut him financially, I said. To bail out your failures. Jessica's father flushed red. You have no right. I have every right, I cut in. You dragged my name through the mud. You painted me as bitter and jealous. Now everyone will see the truth, you weren't marrying Daniel into your family. You were marrying his bank account. Jessica snarled, you wouldn't dare go public. I leaned in. Watch me. Chaos erupted, denials, threats, tears. Jessica claimed the affair photos were fake. Her father threatened more lawsuits. But Daniel stood firm. You lied about loving me. All you wanted was money. He turned to Jessica. If that weren't true, you wouldn't have tried to erase my mother, telling her she wasn't part of my family. The room went silent. Jessica's mask shattered. That night ended with Daniel and me walking out together, his arm linked through mine. Jessica chased after him, begging, sobbing. He didn't look back. In the parking lot, he stopped. Eyes red, voice steady, "Mom, I should have listened to you sooner." I hugged him like when he was little. "You see it now. That's all that matters." But Jessica's challenge, "You wouldn't dare," rang in my ears. She was wrong. I would. With Linda's help, I gave the documents to a journalist specializing in financial scams. A week later, the article dropped, "Behind the Cancelled Wedding. The Hayes family's financial schemes exposed." It laid everything bare: bankruptcies, the predatory prenup, the affair. The tide turned overnight. Online comments shifted: she wanted his paycheck, not his heart. That poor mother, who raised her son alone only to be told she's not family. Gold digger, plain and simple. Sympathy finally came my way. Daniel, heartbroken but stronger, threw himself into his new job. Slowly, real smiles returned. One evening on the porch, he squeezed my hand. "Mom, I don't know how you stayed so strong." She almost broke me. I looked at him, the boy I'd raised, now a man forged by fire. "Because I've been through worse," I said. "And because I knew one day you'd see her for who she really was." His eyes glistened. "You were always my family. Always."